Coming back to the topic of cyberbullying, as I was also discussing with the organizers, what led to this, or why did they zero in on this particular concern? Because these concerns have been there, but lately we have started acknowledging it more. Initially, we were more ignorant towards these realities that they even exist. Right now, also many researchers show that most of us in schools and colleges, at home, are ignorant of the repercussions of the effects that it might be having on people, because we feel that they don't really have a seemingly negative effect on anybody or any potential physical harm to anybody. But it does play a very, very important role in deciding people's lives these days, because most of our lives have been extended onto the social media platforms and to the digitized world. So half our lives are on virtual platform these days, and it has become our extension. So our experiences of our everyday life in real life settings are getting extended to all the virtual platforms. And we need to acknowledge our laws are not well equipped with these concerns, and they need to accommodate and extend the scope of the legal provisions so that the virtual world is also covered under it. Some countries have done it, but in India, we still have a long way to go. So I will start with a few questions. And I would want you to respond if you have come across any of these situations in your life. So I'll just shoot a few questions and the situations to know if you understand that these are also part of bullying. And bullying is one term. There are many other terms used for different kind of experiences, and I'll be taking up all those terms later on, because sometimes we just use an umbrella term and we're not able to define our experiences well. We're not able to express our experiences well to bring up the nuances of those situations. So how do I understand that I'm being bullied? Have you been called negative name or harassed because of physical appearance? Called a negative name or harassed because of ability? Called negative name or harassed because of clothing or dress? Being labeled as gay, lesbian, even if you're not? Being cyber bullied as a student who attends your school? Called a negative name or harassed because of disability? Continued to receive even when asked person to stop? Called a negative name or harassed because of ethnicity? Received a threatening message that made you afraid? Received angry, rude, vulgar email via internet? Discovered someone else pretended to be you online? Received a threatening message from someone you do not know? Been deliberately excluded by others online? This is also a very common phenomenon which people don't realize that it's also part of what we call cyberbullying. Been put down, harassed, or targeted on a website? Called negative name or harassed because of religion? Had someone send or post personal information about you? Received a threatening message from someone at school? Been subjected to unwanted sexual suggestions? Had any sexually explicit pictures sent to you? Called negative name or harassed because of gender? Called negative names or harassed because of sexual orientation? Were afraid to open email or real cell phone messages for the fear of cyberbullying? Received angry, rude messages via cell phone? So can anybody, out of these questions or the situations listed here that I just mentioned, which one have you heard more about? Out of these questions that I just listed and I narrated, anyone, please can you tell me that out of this list, which situation have you heard of more often? Yes, Priyanshi Gupta. Harassment based on religion or political views. Right, recently. these days we have then
Can,
pretended to be someone else. I mean, fake
yeah,
accounts.
yeah.
Okay,
Uh,
yeah.
Ma'am, am I audible?
Yes, yes, you are audible.
Good
That's fine.
afternoon, ma'am. It's a
Good
very
afternoon.
nice and interesting topic what we are going through. Actually, I personally experienced this thing in my school. Like I have been working in my institution since last 15 years, and I have dedicated like my precious years for this institution. But
Great.
like when new staff adds on every year, so like some are very good at flattering the authorities, and so there was one teacher, like he as he joined, he became very near to the authority, and he started boasting about himself that he is the one who is running the school. And so if something like a little thing happens in the school, so he used to post status on his WhatsApp account related with the event or like discussion what had gone in the school. So that way he used to uh, give out his feelings because he was not able to express there itself. So he used to put like very unethical words and like notes about ladies. And now later he started putting up status regarding the family of the teacher concerned. And he was like that they are not related to anybody, it is for the society. He used to say that. And being very close to the authority, he was always like taken apart and he was never punished for that. But we all ladies just went behind him, and we forced authority to take strict action against him, and we collected all the evidences. Like from long he was abusing us in a way of cyber crime.
Ah,
So we all gathered together, and we like became stubborn that if he will be removed, then only, and that too only two ladies of us. Though we have 100+ staff in our institution, but see, ladies also never supported us in that way. But we too just thought that we are going to do something good for the society, not only
so
for us.
you
First,
complain to the authorities?
yeah, we complained to the higher authorities, and even we said that if you won't take action, we are free to go to the women's cell as well as the cybercrime cell, because they will definitely take action and then the institution will have to face the consequences. So
And
that
this
way,
was,
finally,
huh.
yes, finally, authority was like they were forced to take action, and that teacher was removed from our
Okay.
institution. And that way, we had a victory taking into the help of this cybercrime cell and using actually the name of it. Otherwise, authorities would never have done anything against the teacher. Thank you for listening me.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing, because these are the experiences as we are still grappling with the problem and still grappling with the problem of defining terms. So we can only define terms and come up with concepts only when we have more and more experiences shared on various platforms. So, because we are still not finding words for many experiences that people share, so we need to conceptualize those experiences and put it in one word or a phrase so that people are able to relate to those concepts and maybe relate those concepts to their own situation and experience. So, it's very important to have these experiences. All right, and many people shared that because they saw somebody putting out their photos and being abused in the name of religion, ethnicity. So, yes, but in this age of such an amorphous technology and where boundaries are porous between private and public and personal and public, it's very difficult to control these experiences. So, what do we do in this situation where the clone accounts to gather and misuse personal information? Yes, Shubham said that. So, in this age of autodidactism, where students are also encouraged to learn on their own, and and in this pandemic phase, we are facing all the more dependency on digital media platforms. So we are encouraging students and family members to be pro internet and pro online books. So we can't really keep them away from these platforms. As I said, it's the age of autodidactism, and self-learning is the way ahead right now. That's what we see. And so keeping away, and as if I may also quote some cyber feminists who were claiming that these spaces have to be captured or have to be shared by all genders, and which were predominantly male spaces, as were the old and original public spheres, the coffee houses, the art galleries, the salons. All those spheres were also, the public spheres were predominantly male dominated, and the same setup has moved on to the virtual platform, which was supposed to be a big leveler, in terms of equality, in terms of access to information, and in terms of experiences and the usage of technology. But what happened? Why it couldn't be the great leveler that everybody was expecting? So I'll start with the presentation right now, and in between we'll keep interacting. So I'll just quickly share my screen with you. So just give me a second. Okay, so our purpose is to understand the various concepts of cyberbullying, and the impact that it has on people, on women and children, especially in the wake of increasing digital dependence. So first, we'll go over a few definitions quickly. But before that, as I was asking you a few questions, that why couldn't a digital platform become the great leveler, or become the great, the trigger that we needed in a diverse society for equality or for removing distinctions? So my first question is, which is being discussed by many technology theorists as well, why internet could not become the great leveler by removing social distinctions in information sharing, accessing, or experiencing? Has it destroyed boundaries, or created new ones, or strengthened the old boundaries? So these questions are raised by many thinkers, and recently by Morozov, who studies social and political implications of technology. He's also the author of The Net Delusion, The Dark Side of Internet Freedom. Okay, just a second. Yeah. So my just first question to you is, why couldn't it become the leveler? Why couldn't it remove the social distinctions as participants, as adults who are engaging with our own family members, as well as our students and people around us, our friends? Why do you think it couldn't become the leveler to remove social distinctions of, the different barriers and the divisions that we have in society? If anybody wants to come up with a reason, or if you've thought about it, anybody, that why, despite being a more democratic platform, we don't need any particular structure to be there that we needed in earlier public spheres. Right now, we don't need those structures, but so just the access to a technology could help us in, removing the social distinctions. So why couldn't it happen? What is your thought on that? Why couldn't this technology, which looked very democratic, couldn't do it?
Hello, I am Mudassir Kirmani this side.
Yes, please. Yes, Dr.
I personally feel that it's our perception, number one. Number two,
Right.
we are using technology as a substitute to our conventional method. We don't innovate based on the technology that we are using. And we are not spreading awareness with respect to the technology so that we can use it using proper netiquettes. we always forget to use netiquettes while using technology. And basically, the perception matters a lot.
Right. All right. So you also said perception matters, lack of knowledge, netiquette, as you said. Shubham is also saying that we have lack of knowledge. So when we say we have lack of knowledge, but we see very highly educated people also getting duped or not able to tackle with bullying. So are we part of the problem? We haven't educated ourselves, or we needed to focus on these things much more, and we didn't realize that technology of this level, now we have immersive technology also, which gives us the real life effect and simulates our physical world. We were not prepared for this, that our value system or the cultural system around us would be able to catch up with the technology. We were not prepared for this. Do you feel that the technology advanced to an extent we couldn't imagine? Anybody? That there is a huge gap between our cultural system, value system, or as Dr. Kirmani said, the perception, the variety of perceptions that we have, they couldn't catch up, or we
Ma'am,
couldn't level.
basically, I believe there are too many things we can discuss here. Firstly, if there is some discussion happening on some platform, and there are a group of people who are very much, knowledgeable, then, me, I will hesitate to talk there because I will feel like maybe I'll make a fun of myself. Second is, if we have family or some network, and or we have teachers there, like we feel our kind of privacy is kind of violated. We don't want them to see what we are doing, so that is why we keep that barrier up. Or the third thing you mentioned about value system is like, we have been like a part of this society since long, and whatever the things that are in our society, it somehow affects us, and it now has become a part of us, whether or not we want it, whether or not we like it, but it is there in us. Even though we want to break those boundaries, we want to be like, informally we want to, communicate with teachers, or we want to, communicate with that open mindedness and broad mindedness, but somehow somewhere there is that thing that keeps on, lingering in our thoughts, that whether or not we should communicate in an informal way. That thing, that cultural thing of having a gap between, different divisions, that is there. And even if I even if I talk to, like, for example, if I communicate with some teacher over a phone, my parents will be like, you don't have any respect for them. At our times we used to have that gap, like you should maintain that gap. There's a proper procedure that needs to be, maintained if you have to communicate with a teacher, and all those things. Even if, like, we don't want it to exist, but it still does, and somehow it feels like it's kind of a, like illegal, that we are doing something like we should not do. So I think all these things somehow affect, the way we behave.
Right, right. Thank you so much for the response and for such an elaborate response, which was much needed. That we haven't opened up spaces, and of course, there is a huge trust deficit right now in our society, even among our family members, friends, definitely colleagues, as they say that professional spaces are not for friendships. But then we do need to change this perception as we keep coming back to the issue of perception. Then Rishika Sharma is saying threat to be judged by others. Yes, this is another important issue, again related to trust deficit, that we feel threatened, we feel that we are being negatively judged. Having a discerning judgment is an important issue. Of course, it's a philosophical question, but being negatively judged or being judged in a way you don't want yourself to be represented is definitely, you feel violated because of that, and that needs to change. So we'll move on to our next slides. Slides are visible, right? Yeah. So what is cyberbullying? We'll just take a few definitions first. It's visible, the screen is visible, right?
Yes.
Okay, okay. So according to the Merriam-Webster dictionary, cyberbullying was first used in 1998 and is defined as the electronic posting of mean-spirited messages about a person, such as a student at that time, because people were feeling that mostly it was happening in school, so the definition came around that time, and it talked more about students. But now, as we know, that things have advanced to a different level altogether. And it says that it's often done anonymously, and it makes it more precarious because of the anonymity that it has. Then we have Belsey's definition of 2005, and again, it was redefined in 2006. So it comes from a write-up called Cyberbullying, an emerging threat to the always on generation. So always on generation, we're always on. And now that the devices, we can use our applications across devices. So most of us are always on. Yeah. So cyberbullying involves the use of information and communication technology such as email, cell
Ma'am,
phone,
voice is
page.
very low, ma'am.
My voice is low?
Ma'am, yes.
Okay. Is it better now? Is it better now?
Yes, Dr. Tarushika,
Yes,
it's
it's
fine.
okay. It's okay. It's already fine.
All right. All right. Okay, fine. So, so please bear with all the network issues and the technical issues, and we'll just advance to the next level after this. So cyberbullying involves the use of information and communication technologies such as email, cell phone, pager, text messages, instant messaging, defamatory personal websites, and defamatory online personal polling websites to support deliberate, repeated, and hostile behavior by an individual or group that is intended to harm others. Here, intention matters. Then we have some definitions by UNICEF. UNICEF recognized a few points. It said it is repeated behavior. Gaming platforms are also included in it. And some examples that are included are spreading lies about or posting embarrassing photos of someone on social media, sending hurtful messages or threats via messaging platforms, impersonating someone, and sending mean messages to others on their behalf. So, and after this, we'll try to understand the concepts related to all these definitions that people have defined and organized in certain places. We'll also try to find out the exact meaning and exact word for these experiences in the later part of the presentation. So if we take the polls that were conducted by UNICEF, so it says more than a third of young people in 30 countries report being a victim of online bullying. In 1 year alone in India, if we talk about India, this was data of 2019 and 20. Cyberbullying of Indian women and teenagers rose by 36%. Meanwhile, conviction rates in this period fell to 25% from 40%. Now, so what is this phenomenon telling us about, and what is it reflective of? That the conviction rates have gone down, bullying has gone up. So what does it say? Does it say much about our legal system? Does it say much about our lack of awareness or lack of reporting? What do you think it is? If I may come back to you. So conviction rate has gone down and bullying rate has gone up. Anybody? So what do you think it was? What do you think, in your opinion, it might be lack of reporting, lack of legal arrangements that we have right now, lack of awareness?
Hello,
Yes, please.
this is Tabin on this side.
Yes, please.
Ma'am, I think we lack the information. We millennials, we're not ready for this much technology. So I have a perspective like we have sex education, we teach sex education nowadays.
Right.
There should be a like technology education. We should educate our youth. I think we should educate from the primary grounds about the technology that they are going to use. Like our children are using mobile phones right now, willingly or unwillingly. They are becoming the victims of these things, because there is a very lack of education, very lack of knowledge about we among us millennials, because we millennials want things faster on the fingertips of our hands. So we fall into the traps very easily.
Right, right. So thank you, Tapan. That's what. And let's see what the experts say uh, about this phenomenon. Yeah. So about this phenomenon, yeah, we're back to the slide. The conviction rates in this period fell to 25% from 40%, and the bullying rate rose to 36%. Most of the experts, when they analyzed the data, they felt that they concluded that most of the cases were underreported, and underreporting is a major issue in our country and in many countries, but especially in India, because half the time, as you also pointed out, we don't have the awareness that this is actually happening to us or someone around us. So we don't even acknowledge that it exists. So leave aside reporting. Reporting is still a major step. First, acknowledging, as you said, that we are not trained in media usage, we're not trained in technology usage, it's not part of our regular curriculum, we haven't made it part of our everyday learning and discussions. So it's not our drawing room discussion or even our dining table discussion. So this is another issue, that we are at a very, very nascent stage right now when we talk about the misuse or the other implications of the advanced technologies that we are exposed to right now. So what are the impediments to solutions for cyberbullying? So I found a triangle of confusion. So we are, wallowing in this confusion, whether to ban the technology, to have stringent laws, or to control the use of technology. These are the three, the researchers also. So over the time when we were studying these phenomena, we came across these three major points of contention, whether to ban the technology, to have more strict, more stringent laws, to tighten the grip, or or to control the use of technology in schools or colleges or at home. So this is a major triangle of confusion that we are wallowing in. So again, coming back to you, out of these three, what do you think? You have heard of banning the technology more, you've heard of having more stringent laws or controlling the use of technology, or a fourth solution that you might want to suggest? Yeah, anybody out of these three that I mentioned here, because most of the researchers, they have shown that most of the institutions, colleges, universities, they have tried to, come up with these three major solutions. And at home also, these are the three major solutions we try to rope in whenever we have to control, the technological engagement among our members or students or peers. So these are the three major points that we come up with. What do you think? Are they enough, or are these the points that we should look into in more detail, or there can be some other solution and a better solution? Yeah, please, anybody.
Yeah, hello, ma'am.
Yes, yes, please.
Uh, we, like as you said, more stringent action should be taken against such a kind of act. As you know, in the institutions, a proper committee should be set up for taking these kind of situations into observation, and the person involved in that committee should not be of the same institution, what I believe, because they can be flattered, they can be like taken into consideration by the person who is actually the culprit. So I believe persons from outside of that institution should be a part of that committee who is taking care of such kind of situations which are taking place around related with cyberbullying or uh, doing something wrong against somebody. So
Right.
more stringent actions should be taken against this, because this makes life of a person like hell working out among the people who are actually knowing that what actually is happening with you and you are not able to speak up
Right. So
due
that's
to
more
due to fear of
disempowering.
loss of
Right.
job, due to fear of you, what action your family will be taking against you, or what kind of fear you will be facing around. So many
Right.
things, like in case of women especially, when we talk about, they have to think 100 times before following up any kind of situation like this.
Right.
So
So
I
do you
believe
think that
more
grievance
stringent
cells?
action should be taken.
Right. So do you think grievance cells in our institutions are enough, or we need more focused cyber cells in every institution?
We need more focused cell, ma'am, because right now, like, for namesake, committees are framed, but actually the action is taken by the authority of the institution. That actually, that committee is what? Committees of the teachers who are a part of those institutions. They are under that authority, and whatever the authority will say, they will have to do, whether they agree
Right.
with that or they do not agree with that.
Right. So apart from these, as you said, banning technology, what do you think about banning technology? Because most of the time we hop onto this solution that the first step is to ban this, to firewall it.
No, ma'am, banning is not the solution. This is making us more confident, and like, if we are like confident enough that if we raise our voice, we are going to get justice. So we cannot find solution like banning this technology, because technology is helping us a lot, and especially during this pandemic, we have seen the immense use of technology. So we
Right.
cannot say like we can ban, but we should take and like increase our area of working, how to cope up with the side effects of this technology, so
Right.
that
Right.
we can work upon.
Right. So we need to find and go beyond the scope of just these three solutions that most of the time we come up with in our institutions and in our family settings. So we need to go beyond these. And as most of the people in the chat box also said, that educating around these issues is more important than these immediate solutions that we try to look for. So you must have heard of this approach a lot. Deal with cyberbullying on your own. So is this approach a solution? Get on with it. You're too sensitive. So these words I picked up from many researchers that were trying to capture the narrative of how it is being dealt with when people share their experiences. As many of you said that, either you're not taken seriously, or your issue is brushed aside, and you get to hear these statements. Get on with it. You're too sensitive. Develop a thick skin. Ignore it. You've heard of these statements more often?
Yes, ma'am. Very recently, I have gone through this situation.
Yeah. So these are the issues, again, we need to talk about, because these statements sound very harmless, and they don't seem to have a very sharp edge, but they leave a very indelible mark in our minds and memories. So, am I being bullied online? How do you tell the difference between a joke and bullying? So, UNICEF says that all friends joke around with each other, but sometimes it's hard to tell if someone is just having fun or trying to hurt you, especially online. Sometimes they laugh it off with just kidding or don't take it so seriously. But if you feel hurt or think others are laughing at you instead of with you, then the joke has gone too far. If you feel bad and it doesn't stop, then it's worth getting help. Stopping cyberbullying is not just about calling out bullies, it's also about recognizing that everyone deserves respect online and in real life. So now we come to the general definition of bullying, and it's not restricted to cyberbullying, but bullying in general. Sometimes we don't even understand the basic definition of bullying, and we try to handle the issue of cyberbullying. So bullying is often defined by developmental psychologists as an aggressive, intentional act or behavior that is carried out by a group or an individual repeatedly and over time against a victim who cannot easily defend him or herself. Bullying is a form of abuse that is based on an imbalance of power. It can be defined as a systematic abuse of power. Now, here we have two important points of reference. Victim who cannot easily defend him or herself. So it leads to double jeopardy. It's like a double bind. You are getting bullied, you are getting hurt, you are facing all the consequences in your real life experience, but you also cannot retaliate. You don't have the right platform to address it. So it's like a double jeopardy. It's a double harm that is happening, double vulnerability that is happening. And again, the imbalance of power that exists in most of our institutions, in our society, be it gender power imbalance, be it class power imbalance, positional imbalance, all sorts of imbalance lead to or contribute or feed into the process of bullying. General characteristics of bullying. Again, I would reiterate, bullying entails overt and covert behavior and takes verbal or physical forms, power imbalance between perpetrator and victim. Now, the emerging concern is that sexual and homophobic harassment is emerging as a prevalent aspect of cyberbullying. And this may be related to the gender differences in the way that males and females use the internet and cell phone technologies, or there are many other situations. So do you think, because the next slide talks about the difference between traditional bullying and cyberbullying, and then okay, in the later slide, we have the difference between males' experience of cyberbullying and females' experience of cyberbullying. But before that, the point that I've raised here, the emerging concern is that sexual and homophobic harassment is emerging as a prevalent aspect of cyberbullying, which was considered a very private act in a very private space, has gone out in public, and people are using these tools openly in public, and especially against the less dominant genders that we know, women and other genders or people of different sexual orientation. Why do you think this is a matter of concern, and why do you think it is emerging and it is being used to disempower you? While we are also talking about democracy and deepening it, and then we are challenging people or trying to snub them when they want to express their opinions in terms of, other genders and women. So why is it happening? Why are these very personal accounts or very personal information or very personal ideas being put out in public, and that they believe that they can get away with this sort of harassment and it won't be considered as harassment, rather a very normalized act? Yeah, that's my question to you. Yeah.
I believe, like everyone has his or her own opinion, and everyone wants himself to be heard. And in the process of doing so, we forget we are bullying the other person. If we oppose some view, some opinion, we forget that now is the time we have to stop. By that time we have gone too far. It's like we have shattered that person. He is now unable to speak or gather himself and present himself or herself in front of people again, and like they are left
I
with.
want to know about the prejudice, the prejudice related to sexes, genders that we have. How are these prejudices still being played out in public on these social media platforms? And people feel that these things won't be considered as harassment. Rather, these things will be considered as normal statements, and the harassment would be normalized as people won't even recognize that it's leading to some sort of harassment or disturbance.
I would like to share one of the thing, ma'am.
Yeah,
If
please
you
go
could
on.
permit. Yeah, a statement was shared on WhatsApp, which is a platform that a woman can protect a woman, but what will happen if her husband herself did something to her daughter? How she will be able to protect her at home? So
Right.
is this statement a normal statement on the status of a person, of a male especially? And actually, I'm not using the exact word what was written,
Mm-hmm.
um, that you can understand when one's husband is like, I don't want to share that,
Right.
do something with the daughter, then what that lady is going to do. So that kind of statement on the status, which is very personal of a person, is
Hmm.
shared among all the students, those who are connected to that teacher. And it was said that it is a normal sentence which is related to the society. Is this
Right.
a normal statement, ma'am?
Right. So here we come to a very, very important dilemma and a very important question, that when we don't have the right platform to go to, when we don't have the right arrangements, the legal platforms, the police structure to go to address these issues, and we're stuck in our cultural settings, in our family setup, and also the honor of the family is involved, what are people left with? Then people are left with WhatsApp status, Twitter accounts, Facebook posts. So, how do we deal with that? So, again, the solution lies in making our arrangements, our complaints. We don't have the right place to go to complain, to deal with these issues, because most of the time in family setup, people would be hushed. And so it's a very difficult, it's a very, very thin line and a porous situation, as I said, the porous boundary between personal and public, private and public. That this is also, it's raising another question, that of course maybe you don't just intend to malign, but then there are other issues that need to be addressed, and you feel that it's giving you a vent, these digital platforms. So please, what do you have to say about this, the statement that I made right now, that the dilemma, where to go to? Maybe we don't have the right place. Again, for that, we need a robust education and structure. Uh, Madam
And
Priyanshi, yeah,
of course, ma'am, we need more courage to
right,
come up and speak in front of the people who are involved in this, and even the person like who's the head of the committee or somebody who's a part of that committee who's dealing with that situation. We need more courage to come up and speak, because we know that we are right and the person who is doing such kind of thing is wrong. Whatsoever he may say, we should be well aware, and if we are not aware, we can make ourselves aware by going through different sites which can tell us that if something of this sort is happening, what you can do furthermore. So by gathering all information, we can gather courage, and that courage will help us to cope up with these kind of situations, because society is never going to change.
right. So
Society
you're
will
right in
always be
saying,
the same.
absolutely, you're right in saying that. So before putting out any information right away, before putting out information immediately out of anger or out of helplessness, we need to find better networks. There are many networks working with women dealing with issues of gaslighting. I will be bringing it up in the later part of the presentation. The issue of narcissistic family members or bosses. And so there are many networks. As you said, we have to be informed about those networks, and we need to keep exploring those networks who can give us a cushioning, or who can guide us through the process, and the right place to go to. So you brought up a very important and relevant issue, because right now, even when there are cases of harassment, or some cases of workplace harassment, or within the family harassment, or harassment in public place, or any kind of miscreant trying to create problems, we don't know the right platforms, and then we just put out our information in public, and we get bullied even more on that. So it's like a vicious cycle that we keep that keeps looming. Right.
Very true, ma'am.
So what is the difference between traditional bullying and cyberbullying? One is the issue of anonymity, as we discussed earlier, that cyberbullying is mostly anonymous. Traditional bullying, at least you knew the perpetrator, or at least there was a way to find out at a personal level. But here you need to find the digital footprints, and for that, again, you need to know the right places and the right people to help you with that. Then it's relentless. It doesn't stop. It can chase you all your life. So as Dr. Fahim was discussing with me, it's like a chase, and it's like a war, or it's like a game to begin. You keep blocking, and these people keep making fresh accounts, and keep chasing you on different platforms wherever you are. So it's very easy these days, since we are most of the time in our most of the information is in our virtual platform as well. So our person, that the self that we have as a physical self, we have another self in the virtual form, which is very, very easy, but the effect is equal. The effect of the harassment or the crime or the violation is equal to the effect that it has in real life. And it's more public. You have infinite audience. In traditional bullying, you had finite audience. You had a few people who got to know about what happened. You could share with those people. They would know maybe both the parties. But right now here, the audience is infinite, and you're not even connected with them most of the time. It's permanent, most of all. And as we were discussing right now, that whatever you're putting out, be it your complaint, be it your experience, or your opinion, everything is permanent. Even if you feel that you've deleted, nothing gets deleted. It is always shared. You have screen grabs. It's always shared multiple times, and it's always permanent. So we have to have that mindset that whatever we are saying, we're putting it out, it's going to be permanently available. Easy to overlook. Despite all these grave situation and grave experiences and dark experiences, it's very easy to overlook. Half the people won't even acknowledge that something of this sort can also be categorized under any crime or violation. And easy gaslighting. Gaslighting, as I said, that I will be discussing with you the issue of gaslighting. Do you know what is gaslighting? I'm sure most of us must be experiencing it, but maybe difficult to put it in words. But I would want to know if you're aware of this word gaslighting and gaslight. Anybody? Is anybody?
Manipulating people.
Pardon me again?
Manipulating people
Manipulating people, yes. Shubham
for
said.
their needs and
Right, manipulating in a very different way, which you don't, the person, the victim also doesn't understand that the person is getting manipulated, because the victim herself or himself starts questioning his or her reality. So the act of undermining another person's reality by denying facts, the environment around them, or their feelings. So this is the act of undermining another person's reality by denying their facts, their environment, and their feelings. So the targets of gaslighting, they are manipulated into turning against their own cognition. So they start believing what you tell them. They start believing that you might be weak, or you might be, not humorous enough. So that's more dangerous. You're getting my point, that gaslighting, you don't even get to know, and you start doubting your own reality. And that has become very, very easy in social media platforms. Every other comment is almost gaslighting you, right? If you shared something, people would say, oh, don't be too sensitive. If you shared something, people would say, that's not rampant. If you shared something, people would say, and you get 100 comments, because once it starts, 100 people follow it up. So everything, your reality is denied, your environment, or maybe it happens in your place. It doesn't happen here. Rishika Sharma is saying exactly. So is there any experience you want to share here regarding gaslighting, so that I understand that you've got my point? Any experience you heard or you had of gaslighting? A very small comment can gaslight you for days to come. Okay, so if you maybe shared, if you wrote something, if you wrote an article, or if you attempted to take a course, somebody would say, "Oh, but how is it even relevant?" So instead of appreciating that you went ahead and you spent so many hours doing that course, people would, the first statement, instead of encouraging, maybe, "How is it even relevant now? And who talks about these issues?" You're getting my point? This is gaslighting, the very, very normal statements. Really, it might be your thought, it might be your opinion. It doesn't really happen. So all these things, these are just examples I was trying to come up with regarding gaslighting. Every second statement we are hearing, we are reading on social media platforms, they are very, very much very close to the gaslighting situation that we face in our. So earlier, as a joke, though, people used to say that, relatives gaslight you, or family members, because they're so close to you, they know your reality much more. That's what people had, the previous or the past perception that, relatives you have to be wary of. But now it's no more restricted to the close people who knew your reality very well and who could gaslight you, or you confided in them and then they backfired and they backlashed and you faced a pushback. But now it is happening in the open. Right. Being sarcastic, somebody said, and no one respects or respond to your views, and said, just chill, this happens. Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. So this is gaslighting. You got the point. And this is very
I
easy.
wanted to add up one thing, ma'am. I wanted to read out one sentence, which is, I believe, related to gaslighting
Yeah.
somehow. The statement says, with power comes duty, duty to your subjects,
Uh-huh.
to your friends, to justice, to truth. But with power also comes danger.
Uh-huh. Right, right. So if you are maybe given a position, or people feel that you've reached a
Yes,
power position, so after saying all that okay, yes, it's a very glamorous thing. It's you have to be very dutiful, but then it has its own dangers. So that's
yeah.
how. Right. Yeah. Excellent. So,
Thank you,
and
ma'am.
this is becoming very, very common in public media platform. Anybody, if you shared a picture, anybody would just say that, now who goes to that place? You're sharing a very nice picture on a beach. Now people, they would say, oh, that was back in the age of Yash Chopra films, maybe. Who does that anymore? Right. So all that is very, very common and very easy, and it can disturb you for days to come. So features of bullying: there's always a power imbalance that favors the perpetrators over the victim. The perpetrators are often supported by a group of peers, some of whom actively encourage the bully, and others who watch but do nothing to help peers who are targeted. Then if we talk about students, targeted students draw the negative attention of their peers and are actively pushed out of the group and isolated. Exclusion and isolation from the larger peer group fortify the power of the perpetrators, because it definitely leads to exclusion and isolation. The perpetrator's behavior is uninvited and unwanted by the victim, but then again, it is repeated. The perpetrator's actions are deliberate, repeated, and often relentless. So why is bullying not taken seriously? Did you ever think that bullying would also be a very affectionate term? If I say, oh, my dear bully, would you be able to relate to this statement? That you're such a lovely bully. No? Okay. Then we need to get to the etymology and how it all began, because earlier it was a term of endearment, affection. It was for the beloved, for friends, for brothers. So the etymology of bullying, it changed meaning over time. Bullying began as a term of endearment, affection. The Oxford English Dictionary notes that it originated in the 1600s as boil, meaning lover of either sex. The dictionary also references a 1721 edition of Bailey that contains the word bully, meaning beloved. From lover to brother, the word eventually took on the meaning of close friendship, as between good buddies, companions, and mates. British coal miners described co-workers as bullies and thus began an association with bullies as rowdies or ruffians. Then later, by the late 1800s, bullying began to refer to cowardice, weakness, tyranny, and violence. That if you are a coward, that is why you're being bullied. And why do you feel that you're being bullied? Don't be a coward. Then it began to be associated with gangs, the bully gangs that came up later. So these are the some of the reference, how it all started. So we couldn't imagine that such a term of endearment could change so drastically in its meaning in our current time, right? And this is the reason where most of the researchers show that because of its etymology, many teachers, many family members, many institutions, because over the period, even if we didn't know about the time period, how and when it started, and even if we didn't know, but in many times in our usage, we do use such terms in our colloquial language, which doesn't sound like a bully, or it doesn't sound a very disturbing term. And that is why it is not taken very seriously. Sometimes, if I may give an example from UP, Uttar Pradesh. So in the Hindi belt, some people say that until unless you abuse each other, you can't be great friends. Right, so these are the terms, these are the perceptions that feed into these ideas that it's not a very serious issue. Now we come to the terms which explain different forms of bullying, and some of these forms you must have heard or faced yourself, or some people must have shared. So harassment, cyberstalking, exclusion, outing, masquerading, fraping, piling on, doxing, cyber grooming, online voyeurism. Out of these terms, which are the terms you feel that you haven't heard at all? Which are the most common that you feel are used in explaining people's experiences? Because most of the time we don't even know that this is the exact term we need to use to express our experience, to put our point across. Right? So I'll quickly go over these concepts that we have so that it empowers us to at least explain our situation and experience in a better way. So the first one is harassment. And many times these terms overlap in our explanation. Sometimes we say harassment, then we say cyberstalking, then we say masquerading, then we say impersonation. So these keep overlapping, and we don't realize that it's making our case weak, even if when we try to take some legal action or try to take help from the police department. So we need to be clear in the usage of our terms. At so far, whatever terms we have right now, the limited vocabulary around it, at least we can be more aware of that vocabulary.
Actually, ma'am, what I wanted to say is these words are actually correlated. As you said, sometimes we are not aware what we are facing. And if you will see, it is like a flow chart what goes on. Actually, the basic phenomena what starts is the harassment. And by the time we could understand, it goes to the next level. And by the time we would gather courage to just understand and speak to somebody, it will again go to the third stage. And this is time we are actually not sure that what we are facing. Are we actually harassed, or we are the victim of any other process what is listed below in your like table? So that is actually the thing what is not clear to our mind.
Right, absolutely. So harassment, much like offline harassment, online harassment involves sending abusive or offensive messages to an individual or group. Harassment takes great effort on the part of the bully as well to hurt the victim. Further, it is intentional, repeated, and constant. The victim will often have no reprieve from the bully, especially over a period of time. These messages can have a negative impact on the victim's self-esteem or confidence. Then we have cyber stalking. These messages are often no longer just offensive or rude. So stalking is slightly different from harassment because they're rude messaging or there's a different intent of hurting you. But in cyber stalking, it's another form of harassment. It's more nuanced. So these messages are often no longer just offensive or rude, but more threatening in nature. Messages may escalate to threaten the victim's physical safety. Cyber stalking can quickly lead to in-person harassment or stalking. So it's again like a cycle. It can start with cyber stalking and lead to spill over to the real life stalking. And the person might not say anything at all. So there is no context of messages at all. There might be just blank messages. So that is also cyber stalking. Then we have exclusion. Exclusion is the act of deliberately ostracizing the victim. This may involve leaving them out from social media groups, chat rooms, messages, or events or activities. It may mean purposefully having conversations on social media platforms or apps that the victim does not have access to or that they see but are unable to join. The group may then go on to say cruel or rude things about the excluded person behind their back. So this is exclusion. And what is outing? Outing is when the bully publicly shares private messages, pictures, or other information about the victim on the internet. This is done without the victim's knowledge or consent and is meant to embarrass, shame, or humiliate them. The information may be trivial or more private and serious, but either way, it is a form of outing. Then we have masquerading. Masquerading occurs when the bully, or possibly even bullies, assume another identity to anonymously harass the victim. They may either impersonate someone else, use a real person's account or phone number, or create an entirely fake identity. Often the bully will know the victim well if they feel the need to hide their identity. The bully may harass or cyberstalk the victim. This is typically done in an attempt to amuse themselves or humiliate the victim. So now we are seeing different patterns: humiliating, hurting, just stalking, outing, excluding. And these affect different genders differently. And some are more common for one gender, some are more common to other genders' experiences. Humiliation, as many researchers showed, are common to both, but the level of humiliation and the extent to which things are shared are very differently experienced by both men and women, because with women, other private information and other private images, so their identity is attacked in a more detailed manner than it is attacked when it comes to a male victim. Then we have frapping. Frapping is the act of logging into someone's social media profile and posting inappropriate content under their name. While many people consider this to be a funny joke, frapping can hurt someone's reputation, get them in trouble with family, or otherwise embarrass or harm them. So some people have also divided the term Facebook raping, that is frapping. Some people have also come up with that your account is violated in virtual world, as it is, sometimes your life gets violated in real life. So your privacy is breached. So they feel that it's also a combination of, Facebook and rape and frape. So fraping is also something of relevance right now, which doesn't sound, people say, no, they did it just for fun. Maybe they did it on your birthday, or they did it to just tease you or to bring you out of slumber. But they have real life repercussions, and they have a very long-term repercussions. Then we have piling on. We were discussing piling on, that when somebody criticizes or somebody comments, then or they tag others along with your comment, then many other people join that criticism or join that negative comment race, and they keep piling on. So many other people pile on to criticize you or to comment on you. Then we have doxing. Doxing is when people try to find out your private information, which you might have shared earlier, but maybe done away with later. So it can happen to individuals and organizations as well, and they can make it public. Then they have cyber grooming. Cyber grooming, still in India, we're trying to deal with it, whether to put it in a juvenile act, POXO act that we have for children, because cyber grooming basically talks about befriending on social media platforms and building trust and to manipulate for various reasons of exploitation. Then we have online voyeurism. Voyeurism anyway existed, but now it has become very common because of the availability and access to most of the images, the videos, even the videos that were made offline can be posted online, and it can be for a larger public view. So voyeurism, the general definition is interest in observing unsuspecting people while they engage in private activities or undress not meant for public viewing. So the things that are not meant for public viewing and are very private to a person, when these things are being observed, and now it can also be shared. So it has taken a more magnified form of online voyeurism. So different forms of cyberbullying for men and women. Now I want to ask you another question of socialization at home and how media frames reality and how gender plays a major role on how one is bullied and how one bullies. So some of the male participants and female participants and others, if we have, who can talk about this, that, how socialization affects your way of dealing with social media and your engagement with social media and the kind of statements or comments that you face, and you feel that they will be different for different genders in a similar situation. Yeah, anyone, if you want to share, that you feel in a similar situation, the comments or the experience will be very different for different genders.
Ma'am, basically, a few months ago, what had happened is kind of a girl was bullied on Twitter, I guess. So there were girls and there were boys who just, kind of ganged up against that person. And basically, what she does, she was very high on guts. I mean, her
Okay.
guts were next level. What she did is she got that person, like, everyone was bullying her because yeah, she was doing something that was not right. But then everyone just ganged up against her, and somehow she targeted one of the boys and found his location. And that person, uh, from an a kind of a person who was just bullying, he became a victim.
Right.
So so much so that, like, he was traumatized, and, like, he left his home, he left no trace where he's going, and his parents were kind of, shunned from that locality. Like, it
Right.
affected him so much, it had a very negative effect on him
Right.
as well as his family.
Right. Right.
So
So yeah, I got your point that, maybe something happened, and we don't even get to know whether, one party is in the wrong or the other party is in the wrong, who is right, who is wrong. But we go on and start commenting because this is the age, the woke people as we are right now, that we want to be part of every issue, we want to be part of every solution. So this has become another issue, another major issue, as you rightly pointed out, that, who is a victim, who's a bully, the boundaries are also getting blurred. But yes, definitely, as the researchers also show, that women are doubly vulnerable to these situations. And but we need to, because in social sciences, as we say, that aberrations and the outliers are equally important. So even if we have a few cases of this sort where a victim became a bully became a victim, so we need to acknowledge these situations as well, of course, rightly pointed out. Okay, now we come to this issue of women journalists and scholars, researchers who go out on the field to study and collect stories. So it's like a vicious cycle of offline, online, offline harassment. So offline contact when you try to get your sources. So with men, it becomes slightly more convenient because it's easy to befriend your sources. It's easy to befriend people on the field without, giving out any signals that people might read incorrectly. With women journalists and scholars who shared their experiences and in various researches and on public media platforms as well as in media reports, they shared these experiences that while collecting stories and going out on the field for research, their sources, the people who were their sources, they became their bullies. So now they're in the lurk, what to do, whether to go on and go ahead with that story because those sources now they have turned into bullies. So it's like a nexus, offline contact becoming online stalking, then offline character assassination because of that online stalking, and then again offline rumors. So stalking, bullying, character assassination, getting into rumor and having real life effects of ostracization or boycott or people raising eyebrows when you go to a different place because your image online has been maligned in a way. So how do you deal with that? There are many issues of this sort in which women journalists and scholars, they don't want to share these things with their organizations half the time. Otherwise, they would say that, why don't you quit if you have such a huge problem, right? You've heard of this?
That is very true, ma'am. It is often suggested that if you feel such kind of problem, why don't you switch to somewhere else where
Right.
you do not face such kind of problem. That is
Right.
the only solution provided.
Absolutely. So we have reports that, online violence is the new frontline in journalism safety, and it's particularly dangerous for women. 20% of women journalists and media workers who participated in the survey run by the International Center for Journalists and the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, reported being targeted with offline abuse and attacks that they believe were connected with online violence that they had experienced. So, what does it do to your personality and your life chances that we say? Life chances include opportunities, your standard of living, the choices that you make for the betterment of your circumstances. Freedom of expression crisis. Women are doubly vulnerable. So women are targeted much more when it comes to freedom of expression, and it has increasingly acquired a threatening online environment for women. So spaces are shrinking, though we say that online spaces are so huge that everybody can participate and they're open to all. But for some people, somehow these spaces shrink because of misogyny and online violence in combination are a real threat to women's participation in journalism and public communication in the digital age. It's both a genuine gender equality struggle and a freedom of expression crisis that needs to be taken very seriously by all actors involved. So we need a collaborative, comprehensive, research-informed solutions which are increasingly urgent. So we have a few statistics that, what was the conviction rate and what was the, how many cases of cyberstalking came up and what was the perception about underreporting. That is there on your screen, and you can always find it from NCRB, National Crime Records Bureau, and other such centers of information. So usage and vulnerability, another statistic says that globally 1 in 3 internet users is a child, as per 2016 estimate by the United Nations Children's Fund. The more recent Indian Internet Report 2019 suggested that in India, 2 in 3 internet users are between the age group of 12 and 29. So the vulnerability, and since they start using internet and they are on public media platforms, social media platforms so early in life that they're exposed to so many other things, the privacy issues they might not be aware of. So it's our responsibility as institutions, as teachers, as family members to be more vigilant regarding that. Rather than banning things for them, we need to, as most of our participants already mentioned, that sharing information and experiences is a major step ahead. So now we have target specificity, since most of you are from computer science background, and you can explain how algorithms work more in better detail than I would, but I can always explain the effects that it has because of those algorithms and the messages that you're putting out and the reminders that are coming to you. So somebody who was bullying you maybe left you alone, but that person is and and you don't want to unfollow that person because you want to keep track of that person as well, because he has been or she has been your bully. So those messages, whenever somebody posts anything, you feel tempted to comment, or even if you're not able to comment, you feel that you're suppressing your desires to comment or engage in a conversation, which you know would not be fruitful and will turn into harassment and piling on by other people. So it leads to multiple layers of suppression. So orchestrated algorithmic structures target specific people in order to silence them or to harass them, as Professor Nishan Shah of Lofana University, Germany, addressed in one of his interviews in the social media platform and a newspaper organization, Scroll, that how these algorithms are used sometimes politically as well. And then the pre-assigned algorithms on social media platforms play a critical role in enhancing specificity of attacks. The attacks can become more nuanced, more specific, because of the reach and because of the details of the vulnerabilities that exist. So tweets, for instance, are sent by notifications and reminders by algorithms. If you have engaged with someone's posts or likes, there are various dimensions. So it keeps playing on your mind. You're never able to come out of that loop. So there are, in India, we don't have specific anti-cyberbullying laws, but there are different provisions under which these things are addressed, or these experiences are addressed. We still need to find more specific laws as the experiences are more specific and more targeted. So we need to find more laws, but of course, whatever laws are available right now, at least we need to be acquainted with those laws, like IT Act Section 66A, 66C, 66D, 66E, 67B. All these deal with some of the situations that we have discussed. Then we have some provisions in the Indian Penal Code. So most of the situations that we talked about as masquerading, as stalking, the Indian Penal Code also has some limitation though, because it's difficult to track the person, get to the exact person. Somebody might say, I wasn't there. In fact, my account was hacked and somebody was impersonating. So it's very difficult. It sounds easy that, okay, we have provisions and the codes and everything to handle the situation, but in virtual platform, it becomes worse, because the perpetrator might also say that I was violated. So Section 503, it has a criminal intimidation if there were threats, and if somebody was sending you threatening messages. Now they have increased the scope through email also. They've included 509 IPC, word, gesture, or act intended to insult the modesty of a woman. Then we have 499, defamation, for which we have punishment in 500. Then we have 554C, voyeurism, as we discussed, and stalking in IPC. So voyeurism was introduced after that. In 2013, the case in Delhi, the very unfortunately notorious case that happened, the rape case of a 23-year-old woman. So Justice Verma Committee was established, by the dint of which Criminal Law Amendment Bill 2019 was brought into force. The committee's report looks at privacy in tandem with other jurisdictions, where the right to privacy is looked at as a right to personal development and autonomy, offering a zone of interaction even in public spaces. So the panel recognized the need to curb all forms of sexual offenses and recommended voyeurism be punished with up to 7 years in jail, stalking or attempts to contact a person repeatedly through any means by up to 3 years. Through any means had to be extended. So then we have other provisions which can be dealt under Juvenile Justice, Care and Protection of Children Act. Then we have Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act, POCSO, as we say. But then again, with limitations, that's what we need to remember. That is why awareness and prevention is a better way to deal with these situations than getting into and trying to take refuge in the legal system, which is right now not well equipped to grapple with the situation that we face. This we have already discussed. Online sexual discrimination, again, we have a few more categories like gender harassment, sexual coercion, cyberstalking, identity theft, cyberbullying, and then cyber violence more generally. So we also have sexual coercion, gender harassment, which people don't share more often than not. People try to hide it because it brings more shame to them while they share. Then we have virtual games with sexual innuendos and games that target women. There was a game called Cluster's Revenge. So they target many vulnerabilities or many vulnerable identities like class, caste, race, gender. So in this Cluster's Revenge, what happened, that the person was supposed to, who could escape the arrows of the indigenous tribe in America, that person who escaped, so as a reward, that would get to rape the indigenous woman or the Native American woman. So that was part of the game. So these are not just games, they are also choosing the right vulnerabilities, that you are a Native woman, you are from a lower category, plus your gender, of course, you're not from a very favorable gender, so you can be vulnerable and violated, race, ethnicity. All these identities play out in the public platform when we have these virtual assignments or virtual experiences, as we say. So the vulnerable identities in real life are made more vulnerable in the virtual world. It can get magnified and easily normalized. And then it becomes even more difficult to fight or talk against them because they are so normalized, and people would say, oh my God, you're just too sensitive. It's just a game. So the mere realization of the risk of getting bullied is enough to cause mental health problems, even without actually getting bullied. Why and how? So that's a statement I'm making from the many researchers, the researches that I came across, that the mere realization of the risk of getting bullied is enough to cause mental health problems, even without actually getting bullied. So why does it happen, and what are the repercussions, even if you're not bullied? But what are just the risk that you feel that you might get bullied, and what feeds into that mindset? I want to know from you. Because researchers are showing that just the fear or just the knowing that you are at risk, and what are the things and what are the categories that put you at risk? How do you infer that risk? If we talk epistemologically, like in philosophy, when we try to find answers to some questions, we say, okay, we inferred this, or we saw it, or somebody told us. So how do you infer that you are at risk and it plays on your mind and you don't want to open up? Anybody? So mostly these are our own personal experiences in our real life. So as a woman, or as a person from a different sexual orientation or gender, or as a kid, or from a different ethnicity, class, caste, community, if we had certain experiences in real life, or we personally didn't have, but our community had some experiences of that sort, then we will be at risk, and we will know that we are at risk. And this harms us equally, because even if we are not directly bullied, because most of the time, sometimes when you raise voice, you will be getting this feedback that, did this happen to you personally? If it didn't happen to you personally, why are you coming up with this issue? Has it happened? Many times when we go to the authority or go to the family member or friends, they first ask you, did it happen to you? And if it didn't happen to you, why would you want to raise an issue? Have you come across any of these experiences where you wanted to bring up an issue, but you didn't experience it personally, but you know that people are at risk if these issues are not addressed? So these are our cultural making, our value system that puts us at risk, and we don't open up. We don't want to start a conversation because we feel threatened that it will definitely have a pushback effect. It will definitely have a backlash, right? And the rise of immersive technology that we have, which, as I said initially also, that the digital simulation of the physical world has left many, many women violated and traumatized. There are many websites that had to be taken off the public platform, which were showing very deep physical photos and images, which had very deep clarity of the silhouettes and your body type and everything. And many women found out that they were being, without any knowledge of any consent or anything, it looked so real even when it wasn't. It looked so real because of the digital simulation and the levels of technology that we've reached. It's so easy to simulate our real life experiences. Then another question is that, can you believe that your family member or a friend can be a bully? Signs your teen might be a cyber bully, your younger person in the family. Are we ready to accept that? That's my question to you. Are we ready to accept that somebody around us, among our friend circle or workplace or family member, could be a bully?
I guess those are the most cases.
Right, right,
In
right.
most of the cases, they are either your cousins, your friends, or your inner circle.
Right, right. No, not bullying you, but bullying others. When they're bullying you, you definitely know. But are we ready to accept that our family members could be bullies to others?
Yeah, that could also be the case, but as we see, we are not able to accept those things.
Right,
We don't accept it, rather, as we feel it's us bullying others, whether
right,
be it in our family or whether be it we.
right. Oh, yes, very
We
rightly
won't
pointed
accept that, obviously. Nobody accepts
out.
his own mistakes.
Right. We would feel that they are our extension, so we'll be considered bullies along with just by mere association. So we don't want to accept. So we are in denial half the time. And that is a major problem. It's adding to the problem already existing. So if somebody has many accounts, how to find out if somebody is in your family or your kid or a younger person or a student is a bully? So many accounts, being secretive, long hours online, lack of remorse, majorly lack of remorse. If you try to discuss an issue with the person and if you find that there is lack of remorse, there are very many chances that a person might be knowing something about it. New friend groups every time, becoming withdrawn, not sharing things. So these are not sure shot ways of finding out, but largely they can lead to some cue that we can address those issues right at the right time. And the potential effects of cyberbullying, these are very important. I wanted to focus because we feel that it's just mental harassment, or it's just that mental fatigue it causes because we read those comments or we hear those or we watch those images and videos, or somebody posts something. So it's just a temporary thing, but it can lead to very, very important real life casualties. So decreased self-esteem, emotional distress, physical symptoms, depression, demotivation, missed opportunities, avoidance, seclusion. It can lead to we feel that poverty. And how can poverty or lack of opportunities be related to bullying or cyberbullying for that matter? Right? Can they be related to this? How would these issues be related if we say that, okay, somebody is not able to rise up, somebody is not able to grow, somebody is missing opportunities? How is it related to cyberbullying? What does bully have to do with that? Anybody?
I believe when someone is being bullied, he or she fights his own demons, like his issues, his mental issues grow so much so that he's always with the thoughts that uh, whether or not I should, speak up to someone, or I should confront that person who's bullying me. If maybe he may be having thoughts about, if he does, maybe he'll be bullied more.
Right.
Maybe that person will make much more fun of him, or if that person being bullied will share his insecurities with his family, maybe they will look down upon him, or maybe they will feel like, like they will take
Right.
it lightly, and they'll say like, it happens, you need
Right.
to, you
Of
need
course.
to
So
just.
you would want to withdraw from certain platforms. You would want to shut down certain platforms from your devices. You want to, and these right now, as you must have heard, many people are getting opportunities because of online interactions. They're building networks. So you are put out of the realm just because you fear that you will be bullied, or because of the harassment that you faced, or some kind of experience of stalking which you don't want to repeat in your life. So half the time, many people, they choose to stay out of the realm of public media platforms because they don't want to, and that way many times they miss out on the coming opportunities that might be knocking at their door like others. So many times we miss opportunities, and many people have shared this experience in many researches and surveys that they couldn't take up those opportunities just because of the fear of negative experiences online. And many people choose not to stay on it or deassociate themselves from these platforms.
Basically, what I want to add is like we can have a positive, like effect of having anonymous accounts on this web. Like
Right,
we can just get, attached to people like who mean nothing, and we can share our, what we are facing
right,
through without the fear of being judged, or without, like when some people don't matter to you, and if you
right,
say some things to them, it's like maybe you can take the positive, criticism, and maybe you can, you have mostly that approach of like, I don't know him, his
right.
opinion doesn't matter. So like that can be, very much beneficial in
Absolutely.
constructing, in having a better mindset, and in constructing a better personality, because that way, like we can share our fears, and we can learn very much.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's
We
what we have
cannot,
to do
like
in a
we
personal
we
capacity.
won't be able
Right.
to like keep our guard down, we won't let our guard down,
Right.
and then like we won't at the same time feel like insecure about, now he knows my this and that thing, what
Right.
will I do if this person, tries to like use this thing against me. So like I think.
Right, right. You're right. Obviously, yes. We need to be more vigilant, and we need to be aware that this is not my personal experience. Half the time, we keep wallowing in our own seclusion because we feel that it is specific to us. It happened to me, and it's not happening to others. Why me? So this why me syndrome has to be dealt with more maturity and awareness. By maturity, I mean not the maturity of age or maturity of exposure. That if we share our experiences and if we let others share their experiences with us, then we get to know that there is an interconnected uh, phenomenon existing between these many people, that they're having similar experiences. And that is one of the epistemological ways of inquiry and sharing experiences, of increasing your knowledge base by connecting to people, asking them about their experiences, and connecting with those networks that might be dealing with these experiences. And then you find people with shared experience to engage in better discussions and to find better solutions. So these can be used in a very positively way as well, provided we have the right knowledge of the privacy issues involved, of the right trigger points that we want to avoid for the time being, that might trigger us and we might want to avoid for some time. And completely shunning those spaces is definitely not an option right now. Then we have how to prevent cyberbullying. As we discussed, guidelines for appropriate internet use, we can share with our, in the forms of brochure in our institutions, among our family members, among our students. Education on cyberbullying, as we've been discussing this all throughout, it is one of the major issues that has to be dealt with, and we have to find a better way of educating people on cyberbullying. Instead of only confronting, we have to engage with people, finding less hostile ways to deal with a bully or a cyberbully, monitoring social media activity, being aware of information resources related to cyberbullying, accepting that cyberbullying is a reality, because half the time when we don't accept, then people won't share with us and then they'll be isolated further. So believing in the person who shares the experience, including media literacy in curriculum. Our curriculum need a great overhauling right now, our educational institutions and our curriculum, because media literacy, we've been discussing this for long, that it needs to be included in detail and with all seriousness, but in some places it's discussed in a passing way, as a passing syllabus or as a passing course, but we need to include it very seriously and make it as a part of our curriculum. Many researchers have suggested this as well. Who should you talk to when you have these negative experiences? We say trusted people, right? So who are these trusted people, and where do they exist in this age of grave distrust? And so where do we find these trusted people? So we're about to wind up, and I just want your comments. And who are these trusted people?
Like I said, strangers, because we don't have the fear of being judged. Maybe they can provide us, the better ways we can deal with. I believe this bullying thing has, very deep roots in our society, and if we just, we just forget about cyberbullying and we talk about bullying only, we like our people, our fathers, or grandparents or their parents, I believe all of them have gone through this, and somewhere, every one of them is a bully. That is why it's said, if you have to suffice through something, you need to be the part of that. So
Right.
I feel like somewhere they might be the same. That is why
Right.
they have
It's
been
very
able to
difficult
come.
to, right. And then you feel that you have to act in a similar way to ward off those bullies. You yourself have to become a bully. So some people
Yes,
also resort to those solutions, but they're not really helpful in the long run. So who is a
exactly.
trustworthy person? We are part of the problem if we don't educate ourselves to become informed and trustworthy people, to interpret the issues correctly. So the trustworthy people mean the people who can interpret the issues correctly. So before sharing your information or before sharing your experience with anyone, just try to test the waters a little, to see that if that person is at par with that knowledge or that level of understanding, that they can handle your situation and your experience well. So before sharing your experience or before sharing any information with your colleagues, friends, family members, anybody, as you said, that you never know who backfires in this age of competition and cutthroat competition and lack of opportunities. We can't even blame them. So we have to be a little wary of ourselves and the things that we share. So we need to test them before sharing anything, and they can be tested very easily. We can have discussions with them on these issues before completely immersing ourselves into the conversation and opening up to them. Then we have certain go-to websites, portals, platforms that are available for reporting cyberbullying or different kinds of cyber crimes. Some are specific to women and children, and some are open to all, that we have at the national level, at the state level. Then they can be used for cyber crimes against women and children, as I said. Then we have National Commission for Women that also deals with these issues. then there are some one-stop centers in different states and districts to report cyber crimes that can also be explored. And if sometimes we don't feel comfortable with the government authorities or with police structure, then we can always find help from some non-governmental organizations that might be available in your city, in your district, in your region. Some are mentioned here: eProtect Foundation in Uttarakhand, a bridge between victim and the state police. Then we have Cyber Peace Foundation. Then we have Akancha Against Harassment. They also deal with various kinds of issues. So these are some bodies that we can go to. And thank you so much. So I end it here. If there is anything else or we need to discuss something, or if you had a major takeaway from this, you may share. Dr. Fahim?
Thank you very much, Dr. Tarushika Sarvesh. It was very insightful discussion, though we have had our discussions over cyberbullying, but never, I guess, something like this. We have Inab here. Inab would like to say something about this session. Inab?
Yes, basically, I'd like to say thank you to you. It was a very, healthy, we had a very healthy exchange of information. And you know, uh, I got to know so many things that I couldn't have if I hadn't joined the session. So thank you very much for that.
I guess Dr. Surata Naik has raised her
Yes.
hand.
Yeah,
You
a
have
very good afternoon to you. I'm really very happy to attend this kind of seminar, and I was waiting for this for a long time after seeing the FDB in Atal scheme. So
Thank you,
really,
sir.
I have one question. This now crime, corruption, inflation, so many things are going, and in our future education is online education, and we are now also tempted to go for online purchase. So can you have the new education policy? But this kind of education should be included. I do not know much, but is there any discussion on the cyber crime and cyber threat in the new education policy, madam?
Very rightly pointed out, it's such an important issue, and throughout we've been discussing since the policy was proposed and the policy is going to be implemented. They have said that we have to make the online system more robust, and we have to make our schools more equipped with technology, and we have to advance it to the next level. But this issue of security, and as I said, that we have to make it part of the curriculum. In some passing way it is mentioned, but we have to make it a major part of our curriculum as an important or compulsory courses, not just as an awareness campaign. Because unless we make it part of our curriculum, our educational system can't be robust. And now, as you rightly pointed out, we are moving on to virtual platform most of the time. And in the future, we never know, with all the pandemic and all the epidemic setting in, we don't know what the future has in for us. So yes, you rightly pointed out that it has to be made cyberbullying, cybercrime, or cyber safety, security, because e-safety has become a very major issue, and it's a real life threat and a real life concern. It's not just about whatever is happening in the virtual platform doesn't affect our ordinary lives. It has immense effect on our ordinary everyday lives, and our students, our children have to be exposed to these information, and they have to be we have to make them part of this process by engaging with them at every level of education.